Hello, entire internet. I am Richard of the esteemed podcast radio show type thing known as Deep Space and Dragons. And if you're listening to this in Alpha Centauri, podcasts are still totally a thing. I'm Richard. I think I said that already.
You definitely did say that. I'm Karl. And I mean, I don't really know how you can claim that podcasts will still be a thing by the time this beacon of data reaches it. I mean, like that's like what, several hundred million light years away.
Oh, it's pretty straightforward. Because this beacon is the podcast. So by the fact they're listening to it, that is what makes the podcast still exist.
Yeah, okay. Podcasts are totally a thing until people stop listening to them.
Exactly. Although I am deeply horrified that 20% of people don't have internal monologues. But that's unrelated.
Don't have internal monologues.
No, there's just nothing going on in there at all. And to follow that up with a not at all subtle jab, what's new in the Karlverse?
Oh, well, you see, I actually have three things I want to talk about. Each one ending with a question, more nerdy than the last.
Ooh!
So you should go first.
Okay, I guess what's new in the Richard verse, or the Vlad verse if you're feeling saucy. So, due to the power of open houses at Redacted School where I work at Redacted, which is easily
Hmm.
figure outable if you click on my LinkedIn that's attached to my link tree. Come on, stalkers, put in a little effort. I can't do it all for you. So, because of that, I haven't actually had a day off in 9 days. So at some point,
Oh,
I get to cash this in for a 5 day weekend. But
nice.
I'm slowly sleeping into sleep deprivation on account of writing new chapters and submitting to literary magazines and
Mm.
work copy and all this stuff. And one of my job roles today was literally to go in the hallways and ask students how they're doing.
Oh,
That's great. It's like getting paid to be like, how are you feeling today is pretty excellent. Although we found a circle that had just gotten out of a class, how are you feeling? It's like, would you believe we said we're all pissed off and angry? I'm like, yes, give us this feedback so we can plan events for the angry, anxious students that are you. See, we go
yeah,
around.
okay.
See, it's kind of a catch 22. So while working at Redacted Job doing something, one of the th-
Jabberwockying.
one of the things that well played is that we ask people how they're doing on this trademark emotion check thing, trademark. And the thing
Hmm.
is, it's weird, but we kind of want people to be doing bad so we can help them. It's like
Mm.
we can't help somebody build up their mental resilience if they're already good, right? So it's like
Yeah.
technically for us, if we go, "How are you?" and they're like crippling anxiety, for us, that's kind of great news because then we can do something about it. And I'm like, I'm not being evil here. We're just more helpful to the students who are suffering than the ones who are doing good.
That is kind of interesting.
It's one of those ideas like if you're a firefighter going to a burning building, you kind of need to find the people who are in peril, not the ones hanging out outside. But I'm like, do I feel bad for being like, yes, they're on fire. Now I can put the fire out.
Well, I don't know. Those ambulance chasing lawyers, they make a lot of money.
I don't really want to be an ambulance chasing lawyer. Well, the thing is, the odds of that happening are substantially higher than they were last year, and are concerningly at a solid percentage. Like instead of this being a hypothetical nonsense career, it's like a no, that's like a 1 or 2% chance now.
Well, I mean, I imagine you probably wouldn't be literally chasing down ambulances like you see in classic movies, but
No, I would get speed bumps installed in front of my office. I'm not a chump. This isn't my first day. I just put up some orange codes and redirect them through my drive-through. Drive-through legal advice. Please tap card for your drive-through lawyer.
that would be pretty excellent. Well, actually, no, it would probably be mediocre advice, but
I don't know. You can be pretty efficient these days.
fair enough.
And I guess the last thing that's new with me is one of my coworkers today was asking me for romantic advice for how to craft text messages for a person they're seeing, and I'm just like, something about that's just deeply funny that yes, excellent writer Richard Kivas would theoretically be good at crafting romantic texts, but also this person has no idea what my life has been up to this point to see how deeply funny the concept of me helping in this scenario is. Because it's like, yeah, in a vacuum, I absolutely have the skill set for it.
Right. That's definitely true.
Like
You should be able to.
hiring a romance writer to help with your text is a solid strategy.
Are you a romance writer?
I mean, not with this name. Those ones I've done for private commissions. Good luck hunting those down.
Oh, right. Your Fiverr commissions.
Yeah, people can request what they request, and that's all I can legally say on that. I'm also working I like balanced media, right? So there's usually a romantic subplot in my work or a romantic main plot because I like romance. So does most fiction.
Fair. Yeah.
Like Naruto and Sasuke, greatest love story ever told.
If only they could just commit to the either swapping genders or the same-sex couples.
I'm sure they would, honestly. Like, nothing about the studio genre and magazine would prevent them. The only author that I've been reading that I could see actually do something like... There's 2 authors that could actually pull that card and get away with it. So, the author of One Piece could absolutely pull that card. What are you going to do at this point? Nothing.
Right.
And the author of The Chainsaw Man is just such unpredictable chaos energy. You can't. It's impossible.
Yeah, it is unpredictable.
He has no fear of being canceled at all.
He does not.
All right. So that's pretty much my updates. Is my sanity starting to slowly crumble away as I workaholic for the next few months. But in a good way.
In a good way.
I hit my best writing ability when I've lost all sense of reality.
Fair enough. You can tap into that manic energy.
Oh no, I think I might actually just be a manic pixie dream girl. Like, personality-wise, that tracks. So what's new with you?
Okay. So, question the first. It has a little bit of a lead up here.
Yes, this is the content I live for, and our surprisingly large, dedicated fan base allegedly lives for, because no one... See, the funniest thing is, we get feedback, but we rarely get... people don't typically give you feedback on things they enjoy in context, so we have no idea what about our podcast works. So then we're just kind of committed to doing all of it forever.
Okay, so we've talked before in our podcast about how people in kitchens specifically are often able to say outlandish and potentially offensive things.
Ooh, I need to stop you right here. Jobs. I have a question for you. Okay. So you mentioned we've said a lot of things in our podcast, and this just kind of came to me, and I'm curious your thoughts. Do you think we've said all of the words to Romeo and Juliet across our episodes that someone could find those sound bites and reconstruct it?
Well, I mean, there's definitely one I can think of right now that no, we have not used it yet.
Go for it. Add it in here. This will be a sub goal.
Ethiop.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, we never used it. I mean, why would it come up in context? But there was
But I've also used doth. Like, I've absolutely used doth love in thy eye. Like, there's a lot we've used. Like, we've used Capulets and Montagues in sentence. Absolutely.
Anyways, but so I have 4 employees. Well, I have more than 4 employees, but there are 4 that are important for the story, and they are Angry Bird.
Got it.
Social commentary guy.
Oh, I thought they were going to give them all code names, but all right, just use definitions. That's probably easier to follow.
Well, I don't really have a better code name for social commentary guy. He just really loves to talk about social issues like education, healthcare, politics.
My instincts was Polly Parrot for him.
Polly Parrot. Okay. Angry Bird.
Polly
Parrot. With Polly Parrot.
Yeah, let's be nice.
We just call him like Psyduck.
All right, I'll take Psyduck.
Okay, so we got Angry Bird. We got Psyduck. We have... I need to think of a better name, but nice guy.
Let's go Flamingo.
He is foreign. He has a fun accent.
Iago?
I don't know.
Like that's
Iago. Okay. I mean, Iago's not a nice guy, but we'll go with it. um, and Baby Mario, which
yeah.
anyways, um, so Angry Bird comes into work and he is unhappy with the results of the U.S. election, and so he says some a moderately offensive comment to the effect of, um, all Americans must be racist and bigots because of how the election turned out.
Unrelated
And it's
side
like, well,
tangent. We brought candy into my office to counsel everybody after that election.
okay. But so then Psyduck, he's like, well, maybe the other party lost because they didn't really campaign their platform.
I mean, there's a lot of theories. Like every pundit
Right. Well,
has a theory, but a lot of people also predicted a different outcome.
that's definitely true. But so, I mean, that seems like a pretty rational argument. Angry Bird, uh, he just gets mad and calls everybody racist and storms out.
Also a fair response.
Right. But unfortunately, it's almost impossible to talk about politics without also bringing up gender identity. They've just kind of become inextricably linked
I hope
because of
this
the
episode ends up being called Richard and Karl Get Cancelled.
no. So Baby Mario
Mhm.
keeps the conversation going, and he says something about gender identity that offends Iago. Nice guy Iago.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what was said, but Iago comes to me and he's like, "I'm very upset by what Baby Mario said, uh, and I just don't feel comfortable. And what can we do about this?" And so I send a note that basically says, "You're welcome to your own opinion, and you can just discuss it freely on your own time, but we don't want to talk about politics or gender identity in the workplace because we don't want people feeling uncomfortable or potentially getting into heated arguments." But so I mean, and that was basically the end of that. I'm fairly certain that Iago and Baby Mario have worked out their differences, and politics and gender identity haven't really come up since I sent out this note. But purely out of personal curiosity, uh, I'm curious as to like why Iago was offended. Like, is he part of the LGBTQ plus community? I'm not sure.
The temptation to say the LGBTQ plus ultra gets me every time. Sometimes I get the 2S in there, but I've just watched so much anime, I just want to put plus ultra at the end.
But so the first question, and I'm looking for more of a academic perspective. Uh, I mean,
I was promised
subsequent,
increasingly nerdy questions, and now I'm in actual issues. How dare you? But please continue.
well, subsequent conversations with Iago have basically confirmed that he's gay,
Okay.
which is why he was
Way
offended.
to not
But
out him on
I
this
haven't.
podcast.
Hmm? Oh, sorry, the bird from Aladdin is gay. Sorry for
You
for
know what's
ruining your
hilarious
childhood.
about me picking this name out? It's like, yeah, no, that tracks. Wasn't like, didn't Disney go their way to like queer code every villain in that era because they're Disney?
Okay. But
See, their plan was to queer code all their villains to like encourage people not to be gay, and instead they just made a bunch of gay villains in real life.
but so my question is, it. I mean, I'm looking for your academic expertise, but is there a tactful way to ask someone about their gender identity uh, without like it's just for personal edification? Like I like Iago. He is a nice guy and he has a good work ethic. He's funny. He has a cool accent. And his gender identity or sexual identity have nothing to do with our relationship. but I'm
Okay,
personally curious.
so first a disclaimer, this is a comedy podcast, and nothing I say on here is meant to be legally binding or actual
Right.
advice. I need this clarification because I deal with people, confidential information, and it is a serious topic. So I'm going to
Hmm.
tell you what I would tell a student in this circumstance.
Yeah, okay.
They will
That's kind of what
tell
I'm going for.
they will tell you if they're comfortable to tell you. Do not pry at all in any way, shape, or form. They will tell you if they're comfortable telling you.
Yeah, okay. I kind of figured that was the quote unquote
And
correct
for the
response,
comedy
but
version of Richard on a podcast, there's no good way that'll go. Just don't fucking do it, man. I'm using my F bomb early. Just don't. Just don't. Even if you tried that on me, it wouldn't end well for you. Because,
but you're so flamboyant.
exactly, if you're like, hey, maybe 10 years ago, you could have just walked up, but right now, no. As an employer, absolutely not. I mean, unless you want to start doing what colleges do, where they are determined they never pressure anybody, but then they put an anonymous checkbox at the bottom of the thing to identify, and then that anonymous identification is attached to your file for grants and bursaries.
Well, see, that's kind of why I was a little bit curious about your perspective. Like, it's just like intellectually, I know you should just never ask, but like emotionally, I'm just so curious.
Well, it's really funny too, is in the college environment where everyone's so open, I've never been in a situation where I would have to ask in the first place over the last X number of years. People just come up to me, I'll be sitting there eating a mango, and they'll be like, so here's my entire traumatic life story.
Right.
And I'm like, I no longer want this mango, thanks. So if you create a safe enough space and you share about yourself, people are more likely to open up. That would be my actual approach. Like, you would never ask.
Okay.
Just create as many comfortable one-on-one chill sessions as possible to get to know this person better, and maybe this information will come up, or maybe you'll never know. But there's no way to acquire this information except for finding the two tiny marble-sized Dragon Balls and wishing on off-brand Chonky Shenron to get this information.
Okay.
So TLDR, don't go up to asking people about this thing, especially right now, when, for all they know, you're trying to make a mass deportation list. I'm pretty sure if you're just like, hey, Redacted, can I ask you about Redacted? He just sues you and wins and should win.
Fair.
Because there's also a power imbalance.
Yeah, that's true. But so question the second. Has a little again. Probably has an unnecessary build-up, but here's where it goes. Eons ago, when you and I lived together in the frozen hellscape known as Saskatchewan.
Looks suspiciously like Hondo Muko at winter, with the giant white sand dunes of snow and the moon.
But so, you, when you moved,
allegedly,
I inherited your TV stand.
No, that one's not allegedly. That actually just happened. Okay.
Yeah. You definitely did move, and I definitely did inherit your TV stand.
Allegedly.
Okay. But so, the bottom two shelves of this TV stand are just panes of glass on a metal frame.
I'm shocked how well I'm mentally picturing this TV stand.
I think it's still actually available for sale at Walmart to this day. The same design.
Well, it's more like
top.
I'm just shocked at how firmly I remember this thing.
Okay, but so one day I decide that I want to build a light table because I need to be able to do my own graphic design, and light tables would be useful for doing it by hand at the very least.
You know what would also be useful? Just going to school for it.
Screw going to school for it. I'll just pick it up as I go.
As I spent the day working with two graphics designers, I'm like, okay, boomer.
Side note, my boss asked me if I've ever used CorelDRAW, which I haven't. But the graphic designer that we use for our pizza store It's a local business. He basically runs it by himself, and he doesn't have money to hire more people, but he feels overworked. And so then my boss is like, "Oh, you should just train Karl how to do what you're doing, and then you can have a day off and get him to work for you." Oh.
Hiss.
Anyways, so I take the bottom pane of glass out of this TV stand, and I build my box. I get it like wrapped in the aluminum tape, and I have the LED strip lights, and I'm just about to start like painting this piece of glass, and I'm holding it in my hands, and
So, you could just use equipment at libraries, right? So, no, please continue. It's fine.
So I'm just about ready to start painting, frosting the glass, and I carefully set it down on the tiniest pebble that hits the exact weak point, and it completely shatters in my hands.
So this story, at least in some form, has absolutely made it to our podcast before, but it makes me happy because it's such a Futurama-esque bit to like be holding the pane of glass and then just set it down and then it just explodes afterward. Like that is some classic Looney Tunes-inery.
Right, but so I ended up buying a new pane of glass, and I ended up building my light table. But unfortunately, wherever there is space to place stuff gets placed. And so my poor light table has sat unused for far too long, and it's very sad. But so then I was thinking about how you said that talking about movies isn't Karl core enough for our audience.
Yet again, as I mentioned earlier, this episode, I have no way of confirming what's Karl core enough. What brings in our audience? People are not filling out surveys. I'm not bothering to make a survey. However, the main reason I pointed it out is we had spent, I don't know, about a fifth of each episode on horror movies over the last 20 episodes. So I thought, let's mix it up a bit.
It was October.
Yeah, you did nothing wrong here. Not all quips I make mean you change your life. Sometimes they're just quips. I really need to get more used to how much power I apparently have. Where I'll say something like, "Hey, you shouldn't jaywalk." It just giasses somebody, and their body goes into convulsions against it. You see, I thought I was a warlock this whole time, but what if I've just been some super powerful bard?
Using vicious mockery, that would be your number one skill for sure.
Yeah. My vicious mockeries are savage. Too bad I mostly use them on myself.
But so, I was thinking about how my light table just sits unused, and I'm like, you know what? We've talked about my rock paper scissors card game project before, and I'm really close to actually being able to like play test it.
Nice. Nickety slice.
But I just need to actually design the cards. And so now I'm like, okay, so I need like a wizard hat, a rogue's cowl, and a warrior's helm, because those were the rock paper scissors elements that I was going for.
I mean, I would have went staff, dagger, axe, but this is legit. Okay, I can get behind it.
But I'm like, okay, where do I find a logo design of each of these? So turn to the internet. Well, see, if I actually wanted to spend money, yes, I would go to Fiverr.
Question.
I mean, it would make sense.
How much have you spent on burgers this week?
On burgers this week?
Yeah.
$0.
Okay, on fried chicken this week.
Also zero. I've ate at home so far this week. Like,
good job. Because I was going to make a point that for like the $40 you could spend online for an artist to draw these, most people spend more than that on like takeout in a week. But instead you're like, nah, I'm on a wellness kick, Vlad. You're not going to impale me on my hubris.
The whole point is that I have the light table to be able to do it myself. I just have to get a design to be able to trace.
I love how many steps this is more than uses computer with drawing tablet. Because there's a version of this which is just Photoshop and a drawing tablet. No, this is respect, by the way. I respect the game here.
I don't pay for very much software. I really should, support people that are designing useful tools, but
Nah,
like I
screw
use
Adobe.
Inkscape.
For
I
this,
use Inkscape. I use GIMP.
yeah, no, you're
For
supporting
audio
good
files, I use
software.
Audacity.
Because I want to be very clear here. Adobe can go to hell right now. With them backdating, staking in an agreement to swipe contract data to train AIs. Adobe, if you want to sponsor this episode, bite me.
Well, ironically, that's kind of where this is heading because a wizard hat was pretty easy to find. A Warriors helm logo wasn't too hard to find, but a decent Rogue's cowl logo, that was hard to find. I couldn't find one. Then I was like, wait a second, I could just like AI generate this.
Oh no!
And so then I AI generate a Rogue's cowl. This was like a Rogue's cowl.
Just for anyone listening right now, a great source of stock images is a lot of museum databases will have tons of them.
Yeah, that might actually have been a great place to start. But I turned to
The
I don't remember
darkness.
which AI service I used, but
Skynet, The Matrix.
Rogue's cowl, and for whatever reason, they're just like every Rogue's cowl has to have a face. Like, no, I don't want a face. So I say Rogue's cowl on a styrofoam mannequin, faceless styrofoam mannequin, and it's like, oh, so you want it to have eye holes and a mask? I'm like, no, I don't want that. And I just couldn't get AI to generate the right logo. So I just took one and I just painted out the face and I got the outline. And I'm going to like try to make each of these logos more stylistically
I kind of want to pause you because I just kind of like had a cool idea. What if the Rogue logo was those drama masks, like the smiley drama mask and the frowny drama mask was the Rogue logo?
Ooh. What? I don't know if people would get it.
But it's cool.
It is cool.
Or like an opera mask, like some kind of like opera mask, or like.
Well, you know, like
Phantom
like
Renegade
the Phantom
for
of the Opera mask?
Huh? Yeah.
The Phantom of the Opera mask? Yeah.
Or the V for Vendetta mask was more what I like. Was more the energy that would make sense.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I want Phantom Renegades for Metabots, but like that's a deep cut even by my standards.
Okay, but so the more nerdy than the last question is, how so does anyone own like the AI generated images? Like, is it just plagiarism to just straight up use it? Not that I'm going to edit it to be, like I said, more stylistically unified, but like.
I wrote a term paper on this. I'm feeling weirdly qualified to answer this question on this comedy show. Like, this is like a thing I explained on a law school application. So, copyright isn't something you get done. You don't copyright something. It's literally your right when you create the copy is you have the right to that individual creation, right? So, you write a book, you own that book, and you really only have to prove you own that book when ownership of it's disputed. Generative AI does not provide copyright, meaning if you put these logos out and they're AI generated, I can just steal those.
Oh.
They're just mine now because they don't belong to you. So if your game use rules that use ChatGPT to help generate those rules, you don't own the copyright to that. No one does. So I can just take it.
I see.
And that's where companies are being had in court is because these databases weren't legal to begin with. They just scrape data off without consent. So many lawsuits happening right now, it's not even fathomable. The only thing that makes them even like arguably legal to exist is that ChatGPT does not, OpenAI does not own the content on ChatGPT, or they'd all be in jail till they died because it's all stolen. So if you use ChatGPT, no one owns that content. That's the argument. So that's what makes it really interesting is that these artists can sue OpenAI from theft, and if you use this image, you can't be sued for theft, but they can take it. However, they own the copyright to their design. So if the AI-generated one's too close, they can still sue you for using it. Because they own it and you own nothing.
Right. Well, I mean, like I said, the whole point of this experiment is to use the light table So I feel like I am going to put in enough changes and physical effort to make something uniquely mine that is in fact copyrightable.
And that's where it gets interesting, right? Because if you start with a stock photo, technically you'd have to like cite that as one of your sources or inspirations.
Hmm.
But like, yes, if you just draw something and it's yours and it's not based on an existing IP, you're good to go. But here's where it's really funny. Is if that mask image, for example, you go with Richard's mask suggestion, and it's too close to V
Mhm.
to Vendetta, they can argue that you copied V for Vendetta in your artwork, and you'd have a
Right.
hell of a time proving you didn't when you're like, oh no, I drew this AI generated thing that ripped your data. Oh, so I guess I did
Hmm.
just steal it. There's just extra steps involved.
Well, I'm doubtful that this is going to be the final version. Like I said, I really just need to get cards printed to use my garbage magic cards because I have tons of literal garbage cards. When I came to visit you, I bought a Dollarama pack of magic cards,
Ah, yes, you did.
right? And as you pointed out, there's no value in there. But
But it's fun.
I can't help myself. I go to Dollarama, I see it. It's $1.50. It's like, oh, that's that's more cards than what are in a normal pack nowadays.
Not only that, but it's like cheaper than the cardboard's worth. It's kind of wild. You know, one of the best uses
Yeah.
of those though is using a hole punch to use them as D&D minis. Because all you do is you buy a stack of washers, hole punch out the artwork, and then glue them on a washer, and you got sick tokens. Or like or if you use like little plastic standees for them, like like
Mm,
wedding place card holder standees that are like 50 cents at the dollar store. You just kind of
yeah,
cut out your artwork on the card.
I that is a great idea, but um, I talking about garbage cards. For some reason, the Dollarama Magic Packs have started including cards from Unfinity,
That is
and that makes me sad.
hilarious.
That makes me sad because those ones are literally garbage. They're not useful in any capacity, and thus I have collected well over 200 tokens and/or other garbage cards that I could fill sleeves and then just sleeve my rock paper scissors game using garbage magic cards.
So, you know what's really fun about doing that though? Is sticker paper's not that expensive. So you can literally use a regular printer, print them sized on
Ooh,
sticker paper, peel them off, and stick them on the magic cards.
ooh, huh. I'll have to look into that sticker paper.
Because that one's just fun.
But so I guess the other half of the AI question is do you think it's all right for artists to use AI as a tool in that kind of capacity?
Nope.
Huh.
So, in Canada, there is no fair use clause that America clings to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't actually have the legal protection of parody or inspiration that America does that builds a lot of their things. We also don't have the you can't copyright games rules law at all. So
Right.
if you use AI as part of your process, not only do you not own it, you are tactly giving someone revenue for theft.
Ah.
So I know people whose art has been swiped by the machine. The fact that
Okay.
OpenAI just isn't straight up in jail, note this is a comedy show, don't sue me,
Right.
is baffling to me. Because it's
Right.
just theft. So, like, if you were to literally be like, oh, I'm an artist, so I want to look at some paintings. So they see a bunch of artwork in the back of a truck and some dude sells you it for $50.
Okay.
That feels questionable, right? Like, even if you're using that to then trace, that's sketchy. It's like how people would go to artist alleys at anime conventions and do up prints of other people's artwork and sell them.
Yeah. Okay.
And they'd be like, well, no one owns the artwork, man, because they posted it on the internet. I'm like, no, someone owns that. They made it, so legally it's theirs.
Right.
So it's weird, because, like, for writing, for artwork, for all these AI tools, a lot of people talk about, oh, this workflow, productivity. I've heard people make arguments for equity. But the people who are usually pro AI are trying to sell your data. Like, it's almost always, AI is good, so you should use my tool. Also, it says here that my tool steals your data and sells it to AI. So it's like,
Right.
just go on Fiverr and pay a dude $30. That's kind of where I'm at, is like, if you're going to use it for anything other than like personal use, like I used an AI gen to show you a picture of a three-eyed raccoon the other day.
Right, because it had to be biblically accurate.
Correct. So for just looking at a concept, it's fine. But if you're to publish that or put it in a book, and I can't stress this enough as an artist, just pay someone the $30. Like, come on. Think about how long you spent Okay, here's some girl math for you, or guy math, or non-binary babe math for you.
Okay.
So, you make about $20 an hour, I'm guessing, to $30 an hour. Let's say let's go Stevie one. Let's go Stevie. I'll make a fictional character named Stevie for this. Stevie makes $20 an hour, let's say, right? Stevie is a prompt engineer and really wants to use ChatGPT to bring his vision of a robot to life. So Stevie spends 5 hours reiterating on Midjourney, gives Midjourney $20 to keep doing it, and makes this robot artwork that's kind of what he wants.
Okay.
Had Stevie went and worked at his job for 3 hours instead, that was enough money to pay an actual artist to make exactly what he wanted. So people have this fallacy: when they think something's free, they forget about time cost.
Right.
So if you have an AI write your book, like say you're like, oh, I'm going to fiddle with prompts until the text nearly matches what I want for my monster investigation story.
Right.
You either could have wrote it yourself faster by just learning the tools, and then you would now know the tools, or you could have turned that time into labor and paid somebody for it, and then made an artist not homeless, who then future AIs can then steal their artwork from, and humans' cultural capital can continue. Because every piece of content on the internet before 2016 is going to become one of the most valuable historical artifacts, because the AI is just going to hit like a synesthesia point where everything looks the same, because it all generates average content, and then novel content will be necessary. It's kind of like herd immunity. We're like, AI is slowly going to poison all dialogue to be the same. We're actually hitting the point where people are using ChatGPT to make an email look fancier, and then the person on the other end is using ChatGPT to turn it back into plain language. So it starts with "Sup, Karl," puts it through AI, then then Karl reads the AI message, puts that through AI to make it in clean text, and it turns back into "Sup, Karl."
That's pretty funny.
Where it's like, yeah, no, it turns out like a typo-riddled Richard message is easier to read than if I use a machine to do it nicely, because it just fills it with pointless bullshit.
Yeah, you did send me that one AI-generated message that it sounded like it was an advert. I was like, are you serious? Is this an advertisement for Dragon Ball Z? Like, what? Why?
See? That proves my point pretty perfectly, doesn't it? That it just comes off as corporate soulless copy, when literally just me going, yo, what do you think would be a good anime for branching storylines? And with my disability, my texts are not great. But apparently, the correct, grammatically perfect piece of internet copy was just less appealing to you.
It was very jarring, that's for sure.
And that's what all communication is going to be, is everything's going to sound like a commercial, because that's what most content is. And people are just going to commercialize each other's until a giant cube alien decides mankind's not worth it.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe I'll have the right answer this time.
10 out of 10. AI never would have made that quip. Did I answer your question, though? Because you got me in, like, one of my special interest ramble topics.
Well, I mean, kind of, sort of. Like, because, like, copyright is obviously much more difficult in Canada because of the lack of fair use. But, like,
well, it's more like if you draw your thing on a light table and you base it off a piece of art that's no one alive owns, you're good to copyright and trademark that forever. If you draw it in Inkscape, you're good to copyright it. The human flaws make it less likely to be plagiarism because a person did it.
Right.
But when you use the machine, that means that this image that you copied off of now exists and belongs to no one in its fair use.
Right.
Which means if someone steals it, you can't really point to your source. So ignoring all the ethical ramifications, it's just not a good practice to get into. Because a lot of companies are going to find that they're making new products that don't actually belong to them.
Ah, yes, yeah, okay. That makes sense.
So, like,
But so
it would
then
suck if
moving
I wrote
on
a
to
book and Disney just took it because AI content meant no one owned my book.
but so moving on to the nerdiest question.
Ooh.
Um, okay, so uh, you said that you have played Vampire the Masquerade.
Yes.
Uh, so I mean, I don't know if you said this on the stream, but you also said that you're not a huge fan of play by post.
So,
Not that that is exactly relevant, but
well, to defend that statement a bit, it's ironic to be an author that's not a fan of play-by-post, but
mm,
my brain is constantly running at a super fast ADHD-inspired death spiral.
mm-hmm.
I will not remember... Well, let me rephrase that. I will not have object permanence to post a play-by-post game because I'm going to get bored between the play-by-posts.
Right.
And I'm going to lose interest because my brain's already told an entire epic fantasy story between two players' moves.
Right, that makes sense.
So I could either write a novella to explain what I imagined during the 12 hours it took someone to be like, and I have a spear. Or I could just write a novel at this point, and then I did that. Like, actually.
All right. But
But conceptually, I'm not against it. It just doesn't work for me. Doesn't have enough immersion for me.
That's fair. But so I got invited by a coworker to join this play-by-post Vampire the Masquerade game. And honestly, I'm feeling okay now. But at the beginning, I felt like I was in over my head because the character sheet seemed straightforward enough. But then the touchstones and convictions are mechanically important, but you just kind of make them up. Your ambition and your goal, mechanically important, but you just kind of make them up. And like then there's you get your disciplines, and it's like, okay, I'm going to choose a discipline. It's like, okay, well, you have level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you have to choose one from each level for each dot. And it's like there are just so many seemingly mechanically important choices to make before I even start the game. And I really appreciate the level of customization you give to this character. But I'm like wondering if there's like a more simplistic way to give that character customization while not forcing you to make so many mechanically important choices before you even play.
So what's interesting is degrees of game crunchiness have been a big discussion point when I was doing a lot of my TTRPG club things, right? Like, for example, 9th level games polymorph system, you literally just pick your size of dice, and that determines your odds of rolling for strength, intelligence, what have you. So the size of your dice is basically your character class. And then your edges are, you literally just write 3 things that give you advantage. So you could literally be like, I'm a helicopter sniper, and then you'd get advantage when doing helicopter sniper things. So it's a very straightforward basic game. And likewise, like the Fate Core system, you can light whatever you want for your edges and boosts and abilities. And then when you use those things, you do those things. So those are like the more soft-flowing games. And then the more crunchy, hard-flowing games like 5th edition, which is, people are like, oh, it's not that crunchy. I'm like, oh, it really is. You're basically doing war game simulating if you go any crunchier. Which is like, okay, nothing you make up in 5e is mechanically impactful. It's almost always flavor. Right? Like, but they decide that, oh, we'll just use DCs and skill checks rather than figuring out exact movement distance and mathematics and what have you.
Right.
So I ran into a similar issue with Critical Role's Daggerheart game. So lots of Daggerheart is 5e level of precise, right? Like, oh, I have my dice, my weapon proficiencies, my skills, my domain cards that have specific effects written on them. But then there's just a box where you write an experience and you just list a thing that happened to your character to give yourself a +2 bonus on when you do the thing. And I always get kind of salty for those. Where like, oh, if you're playing with fun people who just want to be chill about it, people put reasonable things there, right? Like, Oh, in my experience fighting a Minotaur, I became a bull wrangler. So anything that's bull wrangly, I would get that benefit. But
Okay.
when I was doing casual drop-ins, I have people be like, "Well, the game doesn't say I can't have a minimum size, so I'm going to be the size of an ant, and I'm going to be good at everything." Is my experience. So like,
Oh.
it's like the more your player goes along the power gaming scale, the more a rules-like game kind of enables them to derail the fiction and just be tacky. Like
Mm.
a player be like, "I'm three kobolds in a trench coat, so I should roll 3 sets of dice." No, most of these things I say about hypothetical bad players are things that have happened in one of the games I ran for drop-ins. So, like Vampire the Masquerade, those 2 boxes that are like mechanically impactful but very vague is actually a way more common mechanic than you would think among very many games.
Huh.
Like even Critical Role's Daggerheart is like, oh yeah, no, this is a brand new game built by people who play D&D for the last 10 years. And like, oh yeah, no, we're just going to let you write what you want in this experience box.
Mm.
And I hate it personally. I find that limitations actually breed creativity.
Right.
So you're like, oh yeah, my race can be whatever I want it to be, and my magic is whatever, and my abilities are whatever.
Mm.
Players tend, at least in my experience, to either get choice paralysis
Right.
or commit to something that either they think's really funny but isn't, or something that would give them a mechanical advantage in something that's now turned into a storytelling experience rather than a game.
Mm.
So that's kind of where I fall with that one. Is it's almost feels like a hole in the rules when I'm playing a game. Like in
Right.
5D, they're like, name your bonds, your flaws, your da 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 da. But they like
Right.
almost went out of their way to make none of those things actually do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, you can create your own background, but then you just kind of pick a background feature. I'm like, okay, I see what you guys are doing here.
Right.
So it's interesting, I guess is the best way to put it. Is it depends how far are, because in theory, someone like me and you, if we were playing
Mm-hmm.
a TTRPG together, really
Yeah.
could play something like ninth level games as mazes, where you're just picking your D&D class, choosing your weapons, and effectively if you roll a 1 and it's something your class could do, you succeed. If you roll a 2 or 3, if it's something intelligence, you succeed. 4 or 5 if it's something strength, yada yada. Me and you would do
Mm.
great because we wouldn't turn it into power scaling, right? We would
Right.
just play the game. Like, for example, the Fate Core games are all you roll these plus minus dice and add them to the different attributes. But the rules are like
Mm.
it's like a game making game where I used it to run a Hunter x Hunter one shot and a Dragon Ball one shot, and it functioned really
Right.
well when I played with creatives. But then people showed up with my 9-winged angel with a hollow mask and a scythe, whose special ability is to instantly slash through space time to kill you. Not a hypothetical. It was like the cringiest anime OC character I'd ever seen. It looked like something out of Dragon Ball AF or Dragon Ball Super Superheroes. And I'm like, oh, because I know like Karl the person when Zamasu's like, this is my scythe and I don't even know what my powers do anymore. Died a little inside. And it's Dragon Ball. You know Dragon Ball's stupid. You're fine with being stupid. But that was apparently your breaking point for stupid. Was the character literally saying, I don't even know what my powers do anymore. They're so awesome.
Yeah. Oh,
But like, if I
that
told
that
you we
was
were
rough.
running a Bleach session, we probably wouldn't even need dice. We would just pretend to be Bleach characters and run around in the backyard yelling out what our Zanpakutos do at 30 with no regrets.
Well, we'd probably have kendo sticks.
Yep, like zero regrets. Like, there's a decent chance I bring kendo sticks to your wedding, like your bachelor party. Like, come on.
Ooh.
So that's kind of. I hope I answered your questions. That depending on the group, those mechanically relevant flavor situations. Some games they almost feel like they don't quite match because the game's already really mechanical.
Right.
So for me, if I'm playing something like Vampire the Masquerade, I'm thinking about it from a character point of view, not a skill point of view. I pick the skills to
Mm.
fit the character, not the character to fit the skills. So when I
Right.
play D&D, I figure out what funny bits I want to do and then build a character that lets me do those bits.
Yeah.
So I would have no problem be like, oh, these are what these boxes are for. But I definitely know players who'd be like, this doesn't make sense from a game point of view, and it's going too much into a story point of view. So it's like an impasse almost.
But yeah, so it's like the goal. I think I have a reasonable goal in mind now for my character because he's his name is Philip Marlowe.
Nice.
And he's a hard-boiled detective. I don't know exactly what he's been doing since the end of World War One,
Completely
but basically,
semi-related. Your D&D character Philip, they found his stone statue on another continent with people praying around it in a lizard den because they thought it was an idol statue.
that's pretty funny.
They did that like the thing where you melt the molten gold to like piece together pottery. They did that to reassemble the Philip statue.
Oh, so Philip could live.
Oh no, he's still very much just dead. It's just some statue of some guy, and it's like, here lies Philip, and they had no further questions. But Cassie gave me the evilest look I've ever seen. It was great.
But so, sometime between World War One and World War Two, Philip comes back from the war and becomes a detective trying to root out evil in the seedy underbelly of New York.
Nice.
And he comes across a crime that was committed by a vampire, a murder committed by a vampire, and ends up killing said vampire because that's the only logical way to stop this from happening again. But then another vampire turns him because obviously he is quite skilled as a mortal, and his intellect is useful to the vampire clan or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so then the current day, we're in quarantine New York. COVID-19 was even worse than it was in reality. And somehow through the pandemic, it became apparent that there are vampires, and now there's some organization hunting vampires. And I'm not sure really what our meeting is about, but I think Philip's goal would be to investigate someone or something that went missing due to these hunters.
Okay.
But I'm having a hard time figuring out his ambition, which is going to be relevant because you have to act according to your ambition to like restore humanity.
So my first
or something along those
one
lines.
looking at those boxes is I always go back to the narrative trope of the want and the need, where what the character actually needs for their story arc versus what they think they need for their story arc.
Okay.
And that's how I would go with the ambition and the desire. So like the desire would be something like wants to be human again. Like whatever his like big goal is would be the ambition, and then the desire would be like what he actually needs to achieve that. So if we did Firelord Zico, for example, his ambition would be to restore his honor, and his desire would be to be loved by his daddy.
Right.
It's how I'd go about it, but make it more vampire themed and almost invert it. So if Philip's ambition is to break free of vampire servitude, then his desire would be freedom.
Yeah, see, I'm just not really sure. The character Philip Marlowe, the only book in the series that I read is called The Big Sleep, and it was quite a good book. But he doesn't. His goal is pretty straightforward. He just wants to solve the crime.
Well, you gotta kind of go a layer deeper from that. Like, what is it internally that solving the crime would help him realize?
Yeah, okay.
And like I said, for a person like me, this is like, let's see. So yeah, like talking about like the want, which drives their external decisions, like solving a case or a mystery is a want, but like the need is like trying to find that desire for the truth, learning to trust others, etc., etc. So that's the way I would try and frame it for this. But also, part of it comes to your player base too. So one thing I often notice, like for the often cited Waters Deep Dragon Heist campaign, is when players make characters whose wants and needs don't feed into the other party members, you end up with 5 games of solitaire.
Right. I mean,
So like,
I totally wanted to solve some mysteries, but we were busy building a bakery.
which is fine, but like, if you knew you were playing the bakery campaign, you would have been Cedric the Baker. Like
That's
you
true.
like your later character who is like a weird gourmand fit better.
Mm. Yeah, I like that guy. Oh, I can't even. Calidor.
Calidor, where it's like, yeah, I ate my arm. What? Like, fit the level of weird that the group was going for, because their campaign ended up more delicious in Dungeon than Dungeon and Dragon. Although, to be fair, most of their campaigns end up delicious in the dungeon instead.
Mhm.
Which is good that I like delicious in the dungeon.
Well, I mean, it's still a fun experience. It's just like not at all what I was expecting based on session 0.
So that's why I'm kind of thinking that, like, for your current situation with the players I can imagine for your play by post, absolutely ask what their wants and needs are to kind of get a sense of scope.
Mm.
Because if it's like wants murder, needs the blood of chickens, then maybe your hard boiled detectives might need like wants booze, needs therapy. Like you might want to like lower the depth a bit to fit the story being told.
Right, right. Okay. I should read what their ambitions and desires are to be able to kind of figure out what their scope is to
Well, I'm kind of
match
thinking like
mine.
a thought that comes to mind about like when that dissonance gets weird is when you put a character who doesn't quite fit in a piece of fiction.
Mm.
So like let's take Uehara and
Excuse me.
Aizen for example.
Hmm.
Uehara and Aizen are like, look at our deep philosophical objectives, and it's like, this is a show about punching each other with swords.
Right.
No one's really like, Aizen's objective made no sense because you weren't doing a philosophical enough thing where it's like, ooh, his sword reflects his loneliness as he struggles with his burden of greatness. I'm like, yeah, cool, these themes don't match the show at all. We don't care.
Right.
We're actually more likely to root for crazy scientist guy shoots up zombies to fight Master Hand. Master Hand made more sense in Bleach than Aizen did.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's kind of.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think. Can you actually? I'm going to flip the question to a random question back to you. What
Okay.
characters just felt like they were written for a different show? Like, what characters from things you've seen just feel like they would have belonged better in something else?
Hmm. Okay. Oh man, now I have to like think think around. Um. So there's this anime. It's called Rankings of Kings.
Yes, I've seen that
Um.
one.
Yeah. I mean, so Boji, the main character, he's this adorable, happy-go-lucky deaf kid, and it's like I know the whole story is like around him, and there's a reason for him being like tiny and weak and deaf. Uh, but he's just like so not the like shonen protagonist that he's become.
Yep. Okay.
Uh, it's kind of like a dissonance. I love the series, and I think it's a great show. But it's just like it's just such a weird like
So another one
he's
that
like the superpower character. Yeah.
kind of comes to mind is the way they wrote Deku, where so they write Deku from episode one of My Hero of I study my enemies' quirks, I write them down in notebooks. I'm gonna be the strategist even though I'm whippy, I cry a lot. And then he gets the power to punch things real hard and break his body. And it's like you gave him the least creative power in your entire cast
Mm.
for the creative character to the point where people are like, wasn't the show a bit better if he just never had a superpower?
So, Jujutsu Kaisen, I reread, sort of reread all of it. I kind of skipped all the strategy part for during the Sukuna boss gauntlet. But Isadori, again, as a main character, um, I don't know if it's necessarily doesn't fit for the show, but it's like, why is his I can punch real good power like it's such a bad power for the show, and yet he's like touted as this extremely powerful and talented jujutsu sorcerer.
So I'm gonna actually take that as thing and be like, no, I don't think Itadori did fit the theme of that show at all. So I would very comfortably say if Itadori wasn't in it as the main character, and instead we went with their actual main character of my first girlfriend died at 12 and became a ghost who haunts me as
Yeah,
I
yeah,
use this
Yuta.
katana. Yuta made way more sense for how that show felt. And like
Mm-hmm.
Itadori would have been a great Sasuke for Yuta to be like, oh, my happy-go-lucky friend ate this demon and now I have to fight against him. But yeah,
Mm.
Yuji, even though he was like Yuji felt like a Bleach character that wandered into a show that was trying to be darker than Bleach.
uh,
And then Dragon Ball has a weird magical power where because it's a comedy, it can get away with jarring tone shifts that kind of cause whiplash where it's like, I'm Trunks, all my family died in front of me in my post-apocalyptic wasteland, and I'm time traveling to fight murderous cyborgs. And you're like,
uh,
this is the show where people can do a jazz dance to take two dudes become one dude.
yeah, I know we've dunked on JJK a lot in this podcast,
It's
uh,
topical.
but oh man, I haven't reread it all. Um, Firstly, my first observation is that uh, Itadori probably does have a sorcery,
Yeah,
uh, because there's at least like 3 times in the series where he inserts himself into people's backstories.
which is funny for me
Just like
specifically for many reasons.
yeah, it does like Toto, the guy that claps his hands and moves people around. Oh
No,
yeah,
Toto is a Naruto character in JJK, but he's so broken that it works in JJK because it's like he's a shonen protagonist, but the show kind of plays it like he's so smart that he's literally insane. That guy is actually crazy, and that's why he's trying to be All Might in a show that's chops off your hands without a second thought and gets away with it. Is he's just broken?
but yeah, he inserts himself into that guy's backstory. It's like someone asks him a question, he responds, and suddenly they have memories of things that never happened and call him brother.
And they vaguely explain that in the final fight where he does that to Sukuna, where it's like some sort of soul resident. I'm like, just say it was his personal power. Also,
Yeah, just say it was his sorcery.
before this turns into a full JJK episode at the 1 hour mark, because that would be a misplay, I do have to say, though, while we're on the topic of JJK, he's set up, like, if JJK Shippuden came out next week, I'd be happier with JJK as a whole, because this feels more like a
Mm.
midpoint than an ending. Because, like, what was the point of Kenjaku being Yuji's mom? What did it do? Because, like, it was in the plot, but he never learns about it or reacts to it. No one does. So it's just kind of a detail. Because if you put a piece of plot in, but no characters in the story have emotional reaction to it, it didn't do anything. Also, has nothing to do with anything at all. But me and my brother recently went through all of Gundam Seed and Seed Destiny again,
Uh-huh.
and something broke me that I didn't think was going to break me.
Oh?
So they have this weapon called Requiem, which is a giant cannon mounted on the moon that shoots up and uses space colonies to redirect the laser. So they basically set up a bunch of arrays, and it's like it shoots from anywhere. We bend it with these old dilapidated colonies and arc it around to hit places.
Mm-hmm.
And then something important struck my brain. The moon moves. So a lot of animes will have moon bases and moon lasers and moon cannons. The moon orbits the Earth. It's not stationary. So your moon base is not going to be in the same spot in 3 hours it was 3 hours ago. Which is terrible for so many reasons. Because if you build a super weapon on the moon, it's never pointing in the same direction. Also, the Earth's also moving. It's all moving. So a gun on the moon would be useless.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, I guess maybe we should move on to our random question.
Absolutely, we should. So, I'm pulling up the list.
The list is being pulled up. Okay, I got a random question for you first, though.
All right.
If one appliance in your house was replaced by a cardboard cutout of that appliance, how long would it take you to notice?
Oh, my house with my roommate, where we found a
Yeah,
stapler
yeah.
on top of the microwave? Never.
You would never notice. You would
Nope.
never like go to make some toast and realize that your toaster is just a cardboard cutout.
No, I'm just so used to weird things like that. My toaster would be gone and replaced by a cardboard cutout. I'd be like, huh, wonder why that happened. Like, it wouldn't. I would acknowledge the toaster was gone, but I wouldn't be sure if the toaster was ever there.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Was that enough time to help you find a random question?
Yes, it was. So, what food have you seen in an anime that looked so much better in the show than it turned out to be when you ate it in real life?
Hmm. That looked better?
Yes. So, my answer is the time Germany actually brought back those red bean paste buns, and I'm like, this sounds delicious on anime, like it's a dessert. And then I was not a fan. Tasted like sand. Was very disappointed. My palate was just not refined enough for this.
Well, you know, um, ice cream always looks so like luscious and sparkly, and oh. Anyway, I mean, ice cream is still good, but it never quite compares to that anime representation of ice cream.
That's fair. And our second question's another anime question. Seemed on point for today. This one's actually makes me happy. Which anime character are you entering on Iron Chef?
Which anime character am I entering on Iron Chef?
Yep.
Wow, I mean, like, there's the low hanging fruit, like Sanji,
Like Sanji
or
was
that.
first thought, or like Soma from Food Wars.
Yeah, I was gonna say the protagonist of Food Wars is also quite excellent. There's that
Toriko would be
new.
a fun one.
Oh, well, yeah, Toriko would be a fun one.
So,
There's that new housekeeping manga, the
yeah, that he
Hima,
seems like
whatever.
he's not going to handle the Iron Chef mystery ingredient particularly well. Like I know who I'm
Yeah, that's
entering
true.
because it's kind of a hot take. So I'm entering Chi Chi, the person who cooks for Son Goku on a daily basis. Nothing that happens at Iron Chef will compete with cooking for 3 Saiyans.
Yeah, that's true.
But plus, like Goku, like will eat bugs and things. Like, yeah, no, like there's no ingredient. I'm confident that Chi Chi wouldn't be able to cook successfully,
That that is true.
including meals for a literal god that'll destroy all life everywhere if they're bad.
Hmm. Who? I'm looking.
Like I'm
Ooh.
hoping for a wild pick from you.
Well, Lloyd from Spy Family,
I mean,
Mr.
yeah, I
Forger.
guess like you're right, but like, see, the problem is we started with Sanji. We're both like, neither of us gonna pick Sanji. Sanji would beat Lloyd.
I don't know, because Lloyd would already have intel on all of his opponents, and he would already know what the secret ingredient was.
Yeah, but Lloyd's intel on Sanji, where it's like, you mean he was a genetically engineered super soldier that likes to cook? Like, I don't know if facts help you in a One Piece fight. They might hurt you.
But this is an Iron Chef fight, and I mean, Sanji is supposedly a great cook.
Where, like, I'm confident Chi
Supposedly.
Chi would beat Sanji at cooking just due to power scaling alone. Like, Iron Chef's like, you
Mm.
got 1 hour, debone that fish. So Sanji's like kicking a fish in half so the bones separate. And then Chi Chi's ripping, like, moving so fast that the bones turn into dust. Because by power scaling logic, Chi Chi's like,
Uh, you're right. Lloyd is actually just a normal human. He's incredibly skilled, but he's just a normal human.
like, if I wanted to beat Sanji, I'd probably go with the Butler from Black Butler.
Yeah.
Like, literal demon from hell is your best bet.
Okay, let's see. Looking through. No, I've run out of options.
And my final thing is Ramen Guy from Naruto.
Ramen guy from Naruto.
All right, and we have one final random question.
All right.
So, this one is: what is the most hilarious and practical weapon you've seen recently?
Hilarious impractical weapon.
Yep. My default is always the arm-mounted gunpowder pile bunker weapon, where instead of just shooting a spike, uses gunpowder to use the spike, so the spike has more kinetic impact going like an inch. It's just such a dumb concept, because everyone would be like, why would you bother making a stopper to stop the spike? That's not how anything would work. I'm like, a revolver that's hooked to a jackhammer spike is cool and you know it. That almost, my editor for my first novel is like, no, you can't just give your main character the impractical anime spike weapon. I'm like, but he has super strength. Like, he actually totally could work it. It's like, but it's stupid. They like couldn't visualize how I was describing this weapon, which I guess if you've never seen one in anime, it would make no sense.
Oh. Oh man, now I gotta.
Your worst part is you want to
think.
be like the switch axe from Monster Hunter, but you can't bring yourself to admit that it's impractical.
Oh, the switch axes. Well, all of the weapons from Monster Hunter are extremely impractical. They're way too big. Even as styrofoam models, you can hardly carry them.
You're just not trying hard enough.
But I mean, the gun lance is actually pretty hilariously impractical.
That is fair. Also, because it keeps coming up in anime, I have to say it. Boomerangs only come back when you miss. And as soon as you apply that rule, every anime boomerang becomes a terrible weapon. Like Sango's Harai Coast, if it hits the thing it's trying to hit, doesn't come back. It's like, the idea of you're throwing a giant boomerang on a flying cat so you can catch it's cool, provided it's sufficiently magical.
Giant boomerang is pretty impractical.
And common. Giant boomerangs are a staple of uselessness.
Yeah, but you know what else is a staple of uselessness? Sharks with frickin' lasers on their head.
How dare you? However, I want you to know I once played an FPS game for PC that one of the weapons was a shark gun where it was a laser pointer and then land sharks came up and ate the target at the end of the pointer.
Oh.
You want to say it's impractical, but you love it.
Oh, I love it. But I mean, I did have a random question.
Ooh.
Different random questions besides the cardboard cutout one, which was, what would you do if you could swim through rocks like a land shark?
Tax evasion.
Tax evasion?
Tax evasion.
You're just gonna like swim through a wall to get away from whoever's trying to tax you, or like?
I don't know what I would do. Like, the thing about that power is I'm not a particularly good swimmer, and like, yeah, I can break into places. But it's like, it was a line that some atheist TED Talk gave a while back that was like, without a code of rules to enforce, what's to stop you from going around and murdering and crime all you want? I'm like, I do go around and murder and crime as much as I want, which is none, because I have no desire to do that. That's kind of my thought, like, yeah, I could swim through stone to, like, commit crime, I guess, but, like, I'm not interested in doing that? So I don't, like...
Yeah.
Normally I have some sort of fun gimmick use for like, what would you do with this weird power? And I'm like, honestly, not a whole lot. Like, if I could swim through everything, I don't know how much that would increase my swimming content. And if it's just rocks, what happens when I hit a metal pipe? Does it just go through my arm and kill me?
Well, see, when you play Monster Hunter and like the monsters are just like swimming through the ground and then jumping up, they're not burrowing, they're not displacing the dirt, they're not leaving a hole behind. They just jump up and then can immediately stand on solid ground.
I ran into that problem running D&D last weekend. So I learned dragons have burrow speeds.
Okay.
So they went to this death mine, which was a bunch of... It was a blue dragon painted red.
Okay.
So they'd get all their anti-fire gear, and then haha, surprise lightning bolt. There was water
Right.
at the bottom of this and a bunch of mine carts, like think Donkey Kong Country style mine cart tracks. And the
Yeah, yeah.
deal was that when it shot lightning, if you're standing on one of the tracks, it'd zap you because I don't know. I just kind of wanted to kill this party. It was the B team party, and I thought I could get away with killing it without any long-lasting emotional repercussions.
Hmm.
So the strike is this burrow speed. I'm like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a fire lightning bolt, then burrow underground and come up. But then my players start asking questions like, can I follow the tunnel behind it? I should be able to see the disturbed ground. Is it rough terrain where it dug before? And I'm like, man, burrow speeds don't work.
No, no, they don't.
Because things don't actually burrow like that. Like they dig. Like for something to dig fast enough that just digs under you would just be structural damage. And like you can't just dig under someone then jump up and be like, well, Monster Hunter style. It doesn't actually work.
No,
So I want to let you know I'm
that's
right
not.
there with you because I'm like, ooh, I have this scheme. And then they asked obvious questions about it. I wasn't prepared as much as I thought I would be. I should have just said magic. Anywho, I did not get a TPK, although I did have 5 out of 6 people down at one point because they stood in a line and got lightning bolt.
That's super funny. But well, thank you for indulging my 3 questions in increasingly nerdy order.
You say that like the first one wasn't a poli-sci question. Like, what the crap? I was promised nerdy topics. You're like, now how do I deal with the serious interpersonal situation with my friend who's also a coworker? And I'm like, you don't. You don't. That's what you do. You clock out and go home.
Well, yeah, I think I handled that situation as best I could, and I believe I resolved the issue. But
Just do what I do. Sit on a bench cross-legged and they'll just come up and tell you.
because they're assuming your gender identity.
Which I mean,
Men don't sit cross-legged.
To be fair, I trip a lot of various beige flags, so I'm not surprised when people reach the conclusions they reach. But I digress. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I am sure my random incoherent monologues about the legal system and deep, serious conversations on political topics about presidential campaigns is absolutely what I was going for. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we promote self-care. You know, go hydrate, exercise. Maybe build a snow fort if it snows where you live.
Oh, and post in the comments who you think would be the best anime cook to win Iron Chef, because I would love if we had enough contenders to do a future episode where we're just like, here's who people think would win anime Iron Chef. It's not Meliodas.
No?
No, it's very specifically a plot point that his food is terrible and will kill you. Bye.
Bye.
Like me. But seriously. Not nerd question the first. So I'm in this very complex situation.
I said that the questions would get increasingly nerdy.
I mean, you didn't lie to me, but much like a box of chocolates, and you open it and there's no chocolates in it, you just said, I didn't say I got you chocolates, I said I got you a box.